Chapter 21, the New England holiday. So this is the day that the new governor is going to be sworn in. Remember, the other governor had died. The question is, which we don't know yet, I can just tell you that from this particular chapter, will the new governor be Governor Bellingham? Remember, he had been demoted at some point in time to a lower level governor, like a deputy or an assistant governor. So it's election day. So I'm curious, just as a reader, will it be Bellingham or will it be somebody else? I hope we'll find out. So what's interesting here is they're describing all the people who come. In addition to all the Puritans, we have the Native Americans who have come for this special occasion as well. It describes here how Hester looks. She is wearing her traditional gray clothing with her scarlet letter. It says here that her face, so long familiar to the townspeople, showed the marble quietude which they were accustomed to behold there. It was like a mask, or rather like the frozen calmness of a dead woman's features. So just a couple similes here. I think it's important to just appreciate how Hawthorne writes. But it also says here, it might be, that on this day, there was an expression unseen before. Vivid enough to be detected now, maybe, maybe not. Basically that we know as readers that she's planning on leaving. So even though on the outside she looks the same, on the inside she's very excited and, hopeful for her future. And so what this is saying is maybe if you look closely enough at Hester, you would see that her expression is a little bit different because she's anticipating her leaving. So now at this moment, for one last time more, she encountered it freely and voluntarily in order to convert what had so long been agony into a kind of triumph. Look your last on the scarlet letter and its wearer. Now, she's not literally saying this, but she could be thinking, like, I have endured all this, sort of anger from this community and the imposition of this letter that I've had to wear my whole life. I've always been this outcast, and I'm finally going to be free of you is what she's thinking. And maybe that expression is on her face. And she might be continuing to say or to think, notice here we have the word might again, it's just a little longer and then I'm going to be out of your reach. It's also interesting here that there might be a feeling of regret in Hester's mind at the moment when she was about to win her freedom from the pain which had been thus deeply incorporated with her being. Might there not be an irresistible desire to quaff a last long breathless draught of the cup of wormwood and aloes with which nearly all her years of womanhood had been perpetually flavored? The wine of life, henceforth to be presented to her lips, must indeed be rich and delicious and exhilarating. So I just wrote here, this is ironic. Let me explain. This is a metaphor. It's not like she's literally drinking wormwood and will later be drinking wine. It's that it's odd, but that even though she wants to leave her life, it has defined her life. It's what she knows. And she might be a little sentimental about leaving it. She might want one last experience or day, basically, in this bland, strict existence before she has this freedom that will come from returning to England. So it's just an ironic sort of juxtaposition. And I think probably a universal truth that even when you don't like something and you're going to go to something better, that it's still part of you and you might feel a little bit of regret in leaving one aspect of your life and starting another. Pearl is very much in contrast to how Hester looks, and this is always the case. Hester always looks like a sunny apparition compared to the gloomy gray that Hester looks like. It's definitely, her apparel mirrors who she is. It's interesting, too, that Hester, who has such simple clothing, made the beautiful clothes that Pearl is wearing. And this is something that Hawthorne has referenced before in the book. It also says here, on this eventful day, moreover, there was a certain singular inquietude and excitement in her mood, resembling nothing so much as the shimmer of a diamond that sparkles and flashes with the varied throbbings of the breast on which it is displayed. Children have always a sympathy in the agitations of those connected with them. So what this is saying is that Pearl is even more excited than she typically is, because subconsciously she can sense that Hester is excited, that there's something in the air, that there's something afoot, something is going to change. It says here, Pearl, who was the gem on her mother's unquiet bosom, betrayed by the very dance of her spirits the emotions which none could detect in the marble passiveness of Hester's brow. So she is basically, Pearl is displaying how Hester is feeling, but Hester is not showing that to the public. And then when they get into town and they see all these people, Pearl says, why are all the people out? Why aren't they working? Is it a play day for the whole world? Look there's Master Brackett, the old jailer, smiling at me. Why does he do so, Mother? And Hester says, well, he remembers when you were a baby. And I think this is another situation where Hawthorne has Pearl like this wise observer. And she says, he may nod at thee, if he will, for thou art clad in gray and wearest the scarlet letter. But he shouldn't nod at me. So he's like, Pearl's like, you're the person who was in prison. You're the person who's being punished. So even though she doesn't know exactly what's going on with this scarlet letter, Pearl definitely senses that it's some kind of punishment for her mother and that the jailer has something to do with it. So here's something that I think is important. Pearl asks if the minister will be coming, because Hester says there's going to be a parade. All the magistrates, the governor, the ministers will all be here for this special day. And Pearl says, will we see the reverend? Will the minister be there? And Hester says, he will be there, but he will not greet thee today, nor must thou greet him. I was thinking, oh my goodness, this is dangerous. To tell a child they can't talk to somebody is risky. I mean, she might do it just to be defiant. It just occurred to me as I read that, like she could reveal the secret, not realizing that she's not supposed to say something. And then Pearl says what a strange man Dimmesdale is. How at nighttime he talks to them, or in the forest he talks to them, but in the bright of day he acts like they don't know each other. And I just wrote, because if she's having this conversation to her mother, the first thing I think to myself is, can anybody overhear her? I mean, she's not a quiet child. I was just worried that, somebody might hear them talking and, reveal the secret. And of course, Hester is concerned about that too. She says, be quiet, Pearl. Quit, that's enough. It was as Hester said in regard of the unwontedly jollity that brightened the faces of the people into this festal season of the year, as it already was and continued to be during the greater part of 2 centuries. The Puritans compressed whatever mirth and public joy they deemed allowable for this single holiday. So the Puritans never allow themselves to have any fun. But this particular day, Election Day, is a day when they are allowed to publicly be happy and celebrate. It does say here that, the person now in the marketplace of Boston had not been born to an inheritance of puritanic gloom. They were native Englishmen whose fathers had lived in the sunny richness of the Elizabethan epoch. So it's important to remember, and this is what this is all about, is that the Puritans, they have this very strict society now, but they came from England originally, where life was very celebratory. Even though the king was very oppressive and they didn't like living there in many ways because of the monarchy, it was still a place where pomp and circumstance was very common and actually sort of centered. I mean, I would say English lifestyle to this day is still very centered around pomp and circumstance. And so they kind of have that memory in their own history, the adults in particular. And so they definitely like enjoy having the chance to sort of be that way again. So that's what this is sort of talking about here. On the next page, it says that they also allow these statesmen to sort of dress up more. They get to wear sort of more fancy clothes. Then it talks here about what does celebration in the Puritan community look like. So unlike England, there are no theatrical performances, no minstrels, no jugglers, no gleeman with an ape dancing to his music, no magic tricks. I mean, there's definitely a lot of things that they don't do, but they smile. Well, good for them. They also wrestle. There's people wrestling, and they even have a couple people up on the pillory doing like a little sword fight, buckler and broadsword. But that doesn't last very long. Someone eventually tells them they have no business up there, that that's kind of a sacred place. But they do want some entertainment, and they allow themselves a little bit of entertainment. Their immediate posterity, the generation next to the earlier immigrants, wore the blackest shade of Puritanism and so darkened the national visage with it that all the subsequent years have not sufficed to clear it up. We have yet to learn again the forgotten art of gaiety. So I just made a note here. This is commentary from Hawthorne himself. And what he's saying here, and I think this is probably also true of any new society, the older generation of Puritans have some recollection of just that celebratory life and living among fine things that would have been common in England, whereas their children and then those children's children are more Puritan generation after generation, because their reality is only the Puritan community. And so the younger generation, they're even darker, more solemn than their parents are, because it's all they know. And so Hawthorne is saying, like, the one sad thing about Puritanism is that generation by generation, it became more and more restrictive and sort of toxic for the people who weren't allowed to have any happiness. It also says here that the Native Americans are there and they're very brightly dressed. So that is in contrast to the Puritan people. And also the people from that Spanish Main, that ship that's in the harbor, they all come from their ship and they join in to see all the celebration of Election Day. They don't care that the Puritans are serious and don't have any fun. These men from the crew of the Spanish Main are smoking, they're drinking wine. Aquavita is liquor, like, bourbon or brandy. So they're just like drinking and having a great old time. It even says here that these sailors on this Spanish ship are probably more like pirates, in the sense that they probably have a lot of things that were stolen. There are very few laws in terms of maritime commerce during that time. So, everyone knows that they're probably up to no good. What's interesting is that the Puritans probably enjoy looking at them, at least sort of seeing what it's like, but they certainly don't want to engage or talk with those people. We have a couple pretty intimidating vocabulary words here. It says here that the Puritan elders, smiled not unbenignantly. Okay, so double negative here. To be benign is to be harmless. In this case, it's to be friendly. So if it says unbenignantly, that means that they're like unfriendly, but then it says they're not unfriendly. So basically we can boil that down to they smile in a friendly way. It's just like difficult to sort of pull that apart. Also, it says here, they smile in a friendly way at the clamor and rude deportment of these jolly seafaring men, and it excited neither surprise nor animadversion when so reputable a citizen as old Roger Chillingworth. So this means criticism. So they're not surprised and they're not critical when Roger Chillingworth, the physician, was seen to enter the marketplace in close and familiar talk with the commander of the questionable vessel. Oh no. He is talking to the captain of that ship. So, this shows us that he is very intuitive. He is on to Hester and Dimmesdale for sure. So it describes, how the captain was the most showy of all the people who were from the crew of that ship. He has like gold lace. He's got a sword. I mean, he looks like what we would imagine a pirate would look like. So very much elaborate, lots of jewels. After parting from the physician, the commander of the Bristol ship strolled idly through the marketplace until happening to approach the spot where Hester Prynne was standing. So he walks right up to her. This is also a little dangerous. Aren't people going to wonder why the captain of the ship is talking to her? Maybe not, because she does go to the harbor and as someone who's trying to be hospitable and offer, charity to people. Not that these people need charity based on how they're dressed, but she does have acquaintance with them, but it is a little bit risky from Hester's standpoint, for sure. So it does say here that, wherever Hester stands, people sort of back away from her. So she is kind of standing by herself. So when this Spanish captain comes up to her, he says, "I just bid the steward make ready one more berth than you bargained for. No fear of scurvy or ship fever this voyage, what with the ship's surgeon and this other doctor, our only danger will be from drug or pill, more by token as there is a lot of apothecary's stuff aboard, which I traded for with a Spanish vessel." So he's telling her that Chillingworth is going to be on board and that he has a bunch of other drugs on board because that was part of the trade for whatever it is he's bringing back to England. So this sounds very dangerous. And of course, Hester is very alarmed. "What do you mean? You have another passenger?" And he just tells her, "Oh, you know the physician. It's the physician here, Chillingworth, is minded to try my cabin fare with you." "Huh. Aye, you must have known it, for he tells me he is of your party and a close friend of the gentleman." And so Hester tries to keep her cool. She says they know each other well. They have long dwelt together. Nothing further passed between the mariner and Hester Prynne, but at that instant she beheld old Roger Chillingworth himself standing in the remotest corner of the marketplace and smiling on her, such an evil smile that conveyed secret and fearful meaning. So what the heck? What are they going to do now? There's no way they can get on that ship. My first thinking is that he's going to kill them, that Chillingworth will poison them or something. And how will she tell Dimmesdale? So we definitely have a lot of suspension at this point in the story.